Right then, guys, huge game in the Champions League. Arsenal against Barcelona. Kathleen McNamee, ESPN's expert when it comes to women's football, joins us right now. Kathleen, it's been a bruising day or so. It could get a bit more bruised, if that's even a sentence. How was the FA Cup final for you? I know the result wasn't what you wanted from an Arsenal fan's perspective, but is there anything that you can take from that performance going into this Barcelona game against a team that's probably one of the greatest women's teams of all time, and they've just played another team that's one of the greatest women's teams of all time? Are there any hopes for Arsenal in this game?
I would love to say yes. I think if you take the match yesterday, it was probably one of the poorest performances that Arsenal have put up in a long time. They didn't have a single shot on goal through the whole match. And when you have someone like Vivianne Miedema in your front line, like that just shouldn't happen. I suppose probably the only thing that you could take from this, and everyone knew going into this week it was going to be impossible for Arsenal considering they are facing Chelsea and Barcelona. The only thing you could take is the fact that that was such a bruising encounter. Like you said, they're not going to be happy. I mean, Jonas Edeval after the match was very honest and very open about the whole thing, just saying we weren't good, like we had no quality. They got their tactics better than we did. They got their like one-on-ones better than we did. So for me, that's probably the only thing they can really take. I think if the team that shows up on Thursday, Barcelona are going to have a great day of just scoring goal after goal, unless Ingsberger decides to pull off some of the saves that she did at Wembley, because those were pretty impressive.
I wonder how Edeval has changed Arsenal, a more transitional team. But did that result against Chelsea maybe bring them back down to earth? It was a huge game, a cup final, of course. They lost it 3-0 against really quality players in that Chelsea side. But we know that Chelsea side was also no match for Barcelona last season. So how much of a reality check was it?
I think it's a reality check that has been coming the last couple of weeks. I mean, Arsenal also had that draw with Spurs, who, while they have been really good this season in the WSL, they're definitely not one of the powerhouse teams in the league, not the sort of team that they would expect to be drawing with. So I think a result like this was coming. There was some talk prior to the game, the fact that Arsenal had beaten Chelsea at the start of the season 3-2. But again, that was a close game. Chelsea were missing Kirby and Kerr, the two players that basically dominated yesterday. And that match, in some ways, Arsenal got away with it. It should have been easily 4-0 by half-time. And the fact that they managed to leave Wembley with it only being 3-0 was quite impressive. Edeval has definitely stepped this team up. He took the foundations that Joe Montemurro built and, like you said, has made a much more transitional team, a team that are a lot happier, not having the ball all the time and taking advantage of opportunities when they can. Again, I say this with the asterisk of they did not do that yesterday at all. But even simple things like certain players like Katie McCabe, like Irish player, very good at set pieces, but Arsenal weren't really scoring off them. Yet already this season, they've scored off more set pieces than they did before. Players like Beth Mead, who's been absolutely incredible for England and Arsenal this season, he's just tweaked things just slightly with players like that to get the absolute best out of them.
The amount of goals that they've conceded in the Women's Super League, it's only 3, which of course is the exact same amount you conceded in the FA Cup final. But the point is that this is still a really good defense, and they're going to have to be. You spoke about Zinsberger there. She made some unbelievable saves in the cup final and will have to do the same again. I felt like Arsenal quite high up the pitch a lot of the time. Do you think against Barcelona, a team that are going to dominate the ball, that maybe Arsenal need to drop back a little bit deeper because you have got such a good goalkeeper there?
I think so. I think what happened yesterday was Arsenal really missed a player like Leah Williamson in defence, and I think that's really going to hammer them when it comes to playing like Barcelona. Jane Bailey just doesn't have that sort of speed. Lotwoman Moy was caught out multiple times. No Maritz was like pushing up quite high, which left the two of them quite isolated and with very few places to go. I know you talked about Zinsberger there. At one point, she like punched her post in frustration, and I was like, "Don't do that. That is your best defense right now. Is that post?" But I think definitely they will need to drop back quite a lot. I'm not saying like park the bus on Barcelona, but considering the defense of we saw yesterday, that may be one of their best options, because you have players like Katie McCabe who are really happy with running up forward, but are also excellent in defense and like spent quite a lot of her career doing that. So I think utilizing players like her as a less of an attacking player and more as a defensive player for games like Barcelona, it could be really useful.
I was going to ask you how you stop this Barcelona side, but I think if you had the answer to that, you might be managing Chelsea right now, or maybe Arsenal. But how good is this team? What's the best thing about this Barcelona side?
I think it's their versatility and the fact, like we say, players like Alexia Putellas, who obviously won the Ballon d'Or. She had 26 goals last season, but she wasn't the only person scoring. You know, I think across the league, they had something ridiculous, like 167 goals. They have so many options when it comes to attack, when it comes to defense. The way they play, like, it's just really fun to watch them play. Their formations are lovely. They have such gorgeous passing, you know, that kind of one-touch football. I interviewed Beth Mead a couple of weeks ago, and she talked about the first match that they played against Barcelona, and she was like, it was like playing against robots. Every time you thought you had them slightly sussed out, they just changed everything up completely and did it so like seamlessly that you didn't know how to react, and you were still trying to catch up 10 minutes later and they were changing again. So I think it's the fluidity, it's the fact that they have all these amazing players, that they're not just reliant on one star. And I also think like credit does have to be given to them for the fact that they haven't been at this level really before. They have like taken several years to get to this point. You know, they've had some big Champions League defeats themselves, and they've put in that time. Barcelona have put in the effort to grow this team and develop this team. And they're even trying to do it more with the fact like they opened Amasia to women for the first time this summer, which is really cool. So it's obviously a long-term project that they're looking at, and they're not just seeing this as a once-off team, even though they probably are because they're so incredible.
Yeah, I find that interesting. I'm looking at the average age of the team. It's around 27 years old. And so that means there's what, 5 years in this team as well as they kind of move forward. This sort of era of dominance that it feels like they're going to have, how long do you think that will last? Is it something, what makes them so much more special than the WSL teams who we know have had a lot of investment, likes of Chelsea and Arsenal, Man City, but they're still so far away from Barcelona?
I think it's hard to know how long it'll last, because I suppose you look at a team like Lyon before and you would have said that their dominance was never going to end, because again, amazing investment, amazing players, and we saw them last season really struggling coming up against the likes of PSG. I think with Barcelona, it almost last year it came slightly out of the blue for a lot of people. I know a lot of people who watch WSL, like obviously it's quite difficult to watch some of the Spanish games. I know I got caught out with this when it came to the Champions League. I wasn't expecting them to dominate Chelsea in the way they did. I think what makes this team special is, again, a lot of the players have been together for a long time. They've worked together for a long time. This isn't the sort of thing where they just randomly bought a few players. Emma Hayes was talking about it last night and saying, you know, games like that Champions League defeat only bring a team closer together. And I think Barcelona have been really smart in that they haven't gone out immediately and said, we need to buy Viviana Miedema and Sam Kerr and Fran Kirby and just chuck them in the squad. They've actually worked and looked at the places where they needed to improve and developed it as a team, as well, of course, as like bringing in a few players along the way.
Now, Kathleen, you know this is ESPN's football forecast. That means we've got to stick our necks out. How do you think the game's going to go?
I think Barcelona are going to win probably by 4 or 5 goals. I would say easily a 4 or 5-0 win.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was going to say, can we go specific on this one? Because I think we probably all feel like Barcelona might win this one. So, yeah, are we going 4-0 or are we going 5-0?
We'll go 5-0. I would say like 4-1. If it wasn't the fact that they had like played the last game, it was 4-1. I feel like that was probably a reasonable enough forecast. But also having seen Arsenal's attack yesterday, especially Miedema, she was so off her game. Like her touch was horrendous. I don't know if Arsenal are going to get a goal.
Hugh, what are you going for?
Oh, I think Arsenal need a response after that. They'll put absolutely everything in. I think they'll have to look at the game against Chelsea, maybe try and keep things as tight as possible and look at their defensive deficiencies as much as possible in a short space of time. That means I think it could be a tough game, a more close game than maybe we expect. So I'm going to say Barcelona 3-0.
And I'm going to get Arsenal fans to like me. 3-0 Arsenal. Hi guys, James Alcott here from ESPN's Football Forecast. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and you want to check out more, make sure you subscribe to ESPN UK.